Okay, let's talk about crawl strategies. As I mentioned earlier, crawl strategies are to ensure Google can find and store your website in its database. So, this is assuming you've already built your website, it's all good and completed. And now we want to give Google access to our website. We want to tell Google that we want them to crawl our website and store it on their database. That way they can show it in search results, right? And there's really four key ways that you can optimize for this. And I want to say first, when it comes to crawling, Google does this naturally by itself automatically. It crawls the entire internet. It doesn't need you to tell it to crawl it. It will do it on its own. Um, so this is not really something that you have to like actively manage and lord over. You're really going to spend more time in the rank and convert stages more than you'll spend time in the crawl stage. But the crawl stage is really more of a setup, right? You're setting your website up for success in the long run. You won't really have to come back to this once you have set it up. So just keep that in mind as you're doing this. Consider this more like a setup, and then once that's complete, you're just monitoring it after that, right? And I'll show you, what you'll be using to monitor, all of your crawl activity. Um, but I just want you to keep that in mind as we go through this. So one of the things that you'll do to improve your crawl stage or your crawl process is you're going to create a sitemap. And what a sitemap is really just a map of your website. It's just this page that has all the URLs that's associated with your website, right? So I'll give you an example. I'll go back to Bloom and Gardens here. Um, and then what I'll do is I'll just type in sitemap dot xml, right? And then boom, popped up. So now we can see each and every URL associated with their website. So we know this is their home page, this is their services page, this is their landscapes page, and it's an entire list of all the pages on their website. And the reason why that's helpful is because in order for Google to crawl your website, they have to be able to find it and access it, right? And so we give them this map to help them understand all of the pages that are on your website. It's a really easy way for them to know what's on your website. If they didn't have this, what would have to happen is that they'll have to just go through each and every one of these links on their own manual, well, not manually, but like automatically through your website. And then hopefully they'll find all the pages that matter somehow through, crawling through all of these links and going to those pages and seeing what links those other pages have, right? So that's really how it would do it. But if you create a sitemap, it will allow them to, have a list of all of your website's pages all in one place, and it'll make it really easy for them to crawl that website, right? So if you don't currently have a website, it will you'll I'm sorry, not if you don't have a website, but if you don't currently have a sitemap, or if you don't know if you have a sitemap, just try typing in, your domain.com/sitemap dot xml, right? And you'll hit enter, and what would typically happen is that your sitemap would pop up, just like I showed you there for Bloom and Gardens. But if it does not pop up, you'll need to work with whoever hosts your website, like whether it's like WordPress or whether it's Wix or whether it's Squarespace, and have them generate a sitemap for you. So, like for example, if I say generate sitemap, I'm just going to Google generate sitemap Wix. Um, and, Wix has tons of support on helping you understand how to create your sitemap, how to find it, and all the other good stuff, right? So you'll want to do that for whoever your website builder is, right? If it's WordPress, go through WordPress. Really, if it's WordPress, you're probably using a plugin. But if it's through Wix, go through Wix. If it's through Squarespace, go through Squarespace to generate a sitemap, right? Since every website is built different, I can't show you one defined way to generate a sitemap. I can only tell you to go through like your one of your providers, and I'm rather certain that they will have documentation that is available for you to read, and they'll tell you exactly how to find it. They're giving you the same example I gave you before, where you just type that in at the end of your domain name, and you should have it pop up for you. Okay. So that's your sitemap. Create a sitemap. Then the next thing we're going to do with our sitemap is we're going to submit it to Google. And we're going to submit it to Google through something called Google Search Console. Okay. Now, what Google Search Console is pretty much the hub of how Google monitors and how Google tracks your performance on search results pages like this, right? So think of it like Google Analytics, but for what's happening on search results pages, right? And this is the place you're going to come to actually submit your sitemap to Google, so that way they'll always have the map of your website that they'll always be able to crawl and index into their database, right? So if you don't have this currently set up, you'll have to get it set up on your website. Now, again, this is one of those situations where, depending on your website, the setup is going to be slightly different. So you're just going to have to really just go over to, Google, type in like Google Search Console. And then if your website is through Squarespace, type in Squarespace. If it's through Wix, go through Wix. And they will tell you how to verify your website with Google Search Console. Same thing with Squarespace. Squarespace will tell you exactly how to do it as well. Same thing with WordPress. WordPress will show you how to do it as well. So you just have to, just Google whatever solution you're looking for, and I'm sure they have documentation on it to help you solve that. But you're going to have to get that set up first, right? Now, once you're verified and set up on Google Search Console, I'm going to give you an example here. You're going to come across something like this, right? You're going to come across like a dashboard like this. This is a much older account that I was using before, but I'm going to use this as an example. That way you can see exactly how this thing works, right? So when you're on this hub here, you have this menu here on the left hand side that will pretty much help you navigate, the entire Search Console software, right? And so to submit your sitemap, you're actually going to go here under indexing, and you're going to click sitemap, right? Now to add a new sitemap, all you're going to have to do is type in whatever the ending of your sitemap URL is. In the previous example, it was sitemap.xml. And then you'll hit submit. It says submitting sitemap, and then it says it was submitted successfully. So we've successfully resubmitted this sitemap technically. And that's really all it took. Google already has your website name because you verified your website with Search Console. And then, you pretty much just submitted your sitemap, right? That's pretty much it. That's all you have to do. Now Google has your sitemap, and they'll be able to easily crawl your website when they need to. They'll crawl it on a regular schedule. How often that is, I'm not totally sure, and that's really up to them. But they do crawl it rather frequently to see if there's any new pages that have been published on their website. Okay, so that's the first thing you do. You're going to give them a map to your site. The next thing that you're going to do is you're going to link the important pages on your website. What I mean by that is you're going to ensure you're going to signal to Google that certain pages on your website are really important, right? And one of the most important ways to link your important pages is to put it in your navigation, right? Again, we're back to this Blooming Gardens example because they did it really well. They linked all their most important pages on the website inside of their navigation. And the reason why that's important is because when you link things together, you're telling Google that this is an important link to us, and we want you to know that this is important. That way you can rank it on your search results pages. And so, again, the linking also helps with crawling. If they don't have a sitemap, they have to crawl through all these links in the navigation menu to find to find all the pages that exist on this website. And so that's the other reason why it's also important. But when you put it inside of your navigation, you're signaling to Google and to people that use your website that these are the most important pages on your website, right? And so you just want to keep that in mind. Having them linked through the navigation just makes it easier to crawl your website, especially when you have linked all of your most important pages right through the navigation. Okay. All right. And then accessibility. Just make sure your website is accessible to Google. The way you're going to do this is you're going to go back to your Google Search Console tool, right? You're going to go over here, right? And then here, you're actually going to search. You're going to take like whatever URL you have. Let's just take like the home page for this dummy site example. I'm just going to put that. Oops. Let's see here. All right, I'm going to pause this for a moment. All right, so now I'm going to take this URL and I'm going to paste it in here. And now I'm going to test whether or not this URL is able to be accessed by Google, okay? All right, so we got the information back. It says this URL is on Google. It says that it can appear in search results. So we know that this page is accessible to Google, right? And that's pretty much it. You just want to make sure that your website is accessible to Google at all times. And if it's not, then you can go through the process of asking Wix or asking Squarespace or asking WordPress, why is my site blocked from Google? Right? And then boom, you can go into this documentation and you can start to work on those issues. Okay. But there's going to be several reasons, and it's not very likely that you'll end up with this issue. It's literally something that you have to do to the website because by default, all websites are accessible to Google, right? So you shouldn't have to deal with this, but if it is a thing, just reach out to your website provider, and I'm sure they'll be able to help you with that, right? And then the last thing about crawling that I want you to understand is mobile friendliness. Your website is crawled from the mobile smartphone view, meaning that when Google looks at your website, they're looking at it through the lens of a smartphone, like how your website would look on a smartphone. And they're judging its crawlability and accessibility through that smartphone view. The only reason why that would be important is if on your mobile phone, your website is completely different with different content and different pages compared to the desktop view. Most websites in modern age aren't built like that. Really, it's just a screen size thing. So you won't have to deal with this as much. But it's definitely something for you to keep in mind that Google does crawl your website in the form of a mobile phone. It looks at your website in the form of a mobile smartphone instead of through the lens of a desktop. So just keep that in mind. All right. Those are the crawl strategies. As I mentioned, it's pretty straightforward. Google automatically crawls your website by itself. It doesn't need your help to do so. However, when we create a sitemap and when we link important pages together and when we just double check to make sure that Google can access a URL, it just helps to make sure that we're effectively doing what we need to do to make sure that our website is being crawled. So just dotting our I's, crossing our T's. But other than that, this generally happens automatically by itself. So you won't have to spend very much time on this outside of the setup that I presented to you today. Okay. So I will see you in the next section where we talk about the rank strategies.